Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carl Priza MMA. Today, we got a guest for you. He is PFL fighter. He is the Canadian Mr. Aaron Jeffery, getting ready, making his PFL debut for the World Tournament, April 18th. First round matchup, taking on Murad Ramazanov. Aaron, what's up, my friend? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
No, doing really, really good, man. You know, for a while, you've been a great fighter in Bellator, you know, coming off of a huge win over Lima, has became one of the big names over there. You know, earlier last year, Bellator announced, you know, they were closing, kind of merging with the PFL. When you got that news, you know, what was some of their actions like?
There was some uncertainty for a bit. I mean, there was a few weeks there where I had no idea what was going on. Like, I didn't immediately get a contract. I didn't immediately get notice from anyone that I was going to get picked up by PFL. So my career was kind of up in the air for a bit. So it was mildly stressful, to say the least. But yeah, a couple weeks went by and they said they were going to pick me up. And I still didn't really know what was going on. I don't think the tournaments had been announced yet. And then a couple more weeks had passed and we got news, we got an opponent and everything. So smooth sailing so far.
No, absolutely. You know, even before being officially a part of the PFL, has the tournament style, has this something always appealed to you? I mean, did you consider maybe doing this for years now?
I like the kind of certainty of it, that you know when your fights will be. Like, obviously it's single eliminations now, so you have to win to continue to fight. But before, with the regular season, it's something that's pretty appealing for a fighter to have. Like, your fights are set, like, before you know who your opponent is or anything. Like, you kind of can schedule out your year a little bit, whereas most other promotions, most fighters, you fight when you get offered a fight, right? So it's tough to like plan a year around that. Obviously, that's the lifestyle we chose, but it is kind of nice to be able to plan ahead a bit.
You know, for me personally, what I like about the PFL's setup is if you win, you deserve to fight to the next level. You know, I feel like in some promotions, it's all about popularity and personality. And, you know, maybe you get a title shot if you sell more tickets than another guy, sort of situation. Do you kind of like that this takes the personality and entertainment completely out of it?
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's nice to see guys get rewarded for their skill set, for what we train to do, right? I mean, we don't train to talk on a microphone or look good on camera or whatever. It is a huge part of the sport now. I think even with the PFL, you're going to probably see guys get more airtime for being that type of personality or whatever. But yeah, like you said, the winner moves on. It's cool to see, like, the success comes from being a good fighter for the most part.
So you're coming off of a big win over Douglas Lima. You know, I think a win that really got you out there. A lot of people starting to know who you were if they didn't already. Did you really feel any extra attention, any hype, any buzz after that fight?
Maybe a little bit leading up to it. I think they hyped up that fight pretty good because Lima had been around for so long, like multiple time champion, big name guy. So yeah, leading into the fight, there was definitely a bit more media and whatnot. Um, it's been a while now. You know how this sport is, right? It moves so fast. Like, you're only as good as your last fight, and if your last fight was 6 months ago, I mean, it's already forgotten. So it's on to the next one.
You know, so you train both a couple places, obviously Killcliff MMA down in Florida, but when you're also up north, train over American Niagara Top Team sometimes with Jazz and Mikey Malott. What's it like going back and forth between those two gyms?
It's cool, man, and I get to escape the winters in Canada, which is obviously a beautiful benefit of the whole setup I've got going right now. But no, I like it. It's nice to be able to mix things up. Like, things can feel stale, like, especially the way my career's gone. I fought twice a year pretty much for the last few years. So say it's been a few months since a fight, you're in the gym every single day. It's the same people. The rounds kind of feel the same. The practice schedule is the same. Like, it can start to feel a little bit stale. So it's nice that I have the opportunity to mix it up. I come down here to Florida, new practice schedule, new guys to work with, different looks, just like a different atmosphere, even like the house that I stay in and everything, right? And then again, sometimes I'll be down here for a couple months and I'll think it's time to go back home and go back there and work with my teammates and coaches there. So yeah, I'm pretty fortunate with the setup I have going right now.
It's kind of crazy when you look at mixed martial arts in Canada today. I mean, it has evolved so much. When I was in high school in Canada 10 or 15 years ago, I mean, you didn't really see too many of those regional shows. Obviously, I think at the time Roy McDonald was out. You had George St. Pierre doing big things nationally. But is it amazing for you, for a guy who started now, obviously been successful in your career, see all these different promotions like Unified and PFL and all these promotions across Canada that are allowing guys the chance to make to these big shows?
It's very sick, man. And some of these young guys, I don't think understand how good they have it. I mean, there is pros and cons, but like for me, I had to drive 6 hours down to Ohio. I always had to fight a hometown guy. I had to fight in a shit promotion where there's like 300 drunk Ohio fans in the crowd. Like it was tough, man. And I was getting paid like $300 a fight. Like now guys have the opportunity to fight on UFC Fight Pass, like a few Canadian promotions on Fight Pass, right? They have a huge stage. Like the talent is good in Canada. They have like good matchups offered to them. The social media is so much better now. Like these promotions pump them up, give them interviews, give them like promos, all this stuff. So it's pretty sick.
No, absolutely. One thing that we're starting to see is these birth of regional promotions all over the world. I mean, on UFC Fight Pass alone, if you want to, you could watch 5 nights of fighting a week. I mean, there's that much regional promotions going on. And I think one thing that we're starting to see is we're seeing a lot of younger guys make it to either PFL or the UFC, and 8, 9-0 guys. And by the end of their first contract, they're already out because they're used to in the promote regional scene, maybe some promoters taking them under their wing, giving them favorable matchups, building them up, and they're just not used to that next level. How do you feel that dynamic has been affecting combat sports?
Yeah, there is a lot more. That's how I just said there is some pros and cons to the way the MMA scene is kind of laid out now. That's one of the cons, is that because I think the lights are brighter, the opportunities feel bigger. I think guys are choosier with their matchups. Like again, me, when I was going down into Ohio, it was like you got a name and you pretty much said yes. You knew his record and you knew nothing else about him. Maybe he was a killer, maybe he was absolute trash. You didn't really know until you got there. But yeah, guys are protective about records now, but it's kind of how you have to be. Like a loss on your record can set you back like years in the sport now, right? So yeah, you see guys kind of build up the record, then maybe they get to Contender Series or get signed, and then I mean, it's a tough way to find out when you get to the show and you go 0-3. But yeah, sometimes that's how it goes. Like you don't really know how good you are until you get there.
Another thing I'm really starting to notice is mixed martial arts. You really see the business side of it in this day and age. That goes from on the regional scene. Who are you fighting? Who are you going to fight to get to the big shows? Who are you doing interviews with? What are you posting on social media? Who are your management? Who are your sponsors? Do you really consider this as a business as well? Is it kind of hard to balance, something you like and also kind of putting on the entrepreneur hat as well?
Yeah, I think it's something that I neglect. I mean, I only just started kind of integrating, like, I guess my side hustle with my main MMA page. Like I'm a nutritionist on the side and I ran a separate page for that, and I like didn't integrate the content at all. Now I just only recently made like a couple food reels of what I'm eating during the day, and they've kind of blown up and got me a ton of followers. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is something that I should pursue a little bit more. But yeah, like you said, there's management, there's sponsors, there's like, you got to pay this person a percent for this. Now there's just companies, like I have a buddy of mine, Michael Goisman. I don't even really know exactly what you would call what he does, but he does like videography and stuff, right? And gets sponsorships for guys. And now he's working with a lot of big name guys. So, I mean, yeah, there's like a lot of moving parts into it now. It's not just go to the gym and train hard and fight. It's like, there's way more.
You've been at this for over a decade. A lot of people watch the sport now. I don't think too many people realize, 15 to 20 years ago, we were still in the building stages of mixed martial arts. There wasn't too long ago, people were calling this human cockfighting. It was not legal every place. When you first started, when you were going to Ohio and traveling all around looking for amateur fights, do you ever remember any situations where you might be fighting in bars, barns, mystery opponents, sketchy conditions? Do you have anything crazy?
Yeah, the one fight in Ohio, it was an amateur fight. It was at a fair. I think it was Troy, Ohio. I fought at a fairground. The weigh-ins were like on a dirt, not a dirt road, but just like on dirt, like beside the cage on a fucking bathroom scale. Like the ground's all uneven. You stand on it, it's giving you different numbers. And we fought outside. And I remember at one point, like the sun was like, it was outside. There's no cover of the lights. So the sun, it's like sunset. It's shining in fighters' eyes. Then by the time I fight, it's a little bit later. It's almost like pitch black out there. And there's like dew almost on the mat because it's like starting to cool down. So yeah, that one definitely stands out.
Oh, absolutely. For you, guy from being from Canada, obviously, we talked about a little bit the Roy McDonald's and George St. Pierre's. For me personally, from Toronto originally, an event that really sparked my attention was UFC 129 in the Sky Dome. Jake Shields, George St. Pierre, one of the first times they had a huge stadium, in Canada. Ontario was able to legalize MMA after that. For you, do you have any moments, were there any guys, when you were growing up that inspired you to pursue this life?
For me, it was always Anderson Silva. I remember watching his fights growing up, and I was always so hyped and getting so nervous, and just watching him do like that Matrix shit, man. It was crazy. I thought he was so sick.
Oh, absolutely. In this day and age, we have so many fans who are watching this, and we have a term now called the casual fan. So these are the guys, they're usually drunk. They like to go to Boston Pizza. They like to go to B-Dubs.
Not drunk, but I'm the casual fan.
They like to yell, twist them, you-know-what. Overall, what do you think of this? Is it just something we need to go along with, kind of embrace, have fun with it? They're paying the bills. They're good for the sport.
Yeah, I think they're paying the bills, man. I don't think, like, we got the casuals and the hardcores. I think the casuals significantly outnumber the hardcores. So yeah, I think they're the ones paying the bills. And like, for real, I'm a casual. I don't know 90% of the roster, and if I'm watching a fight, I can appreciate good grappling, but if I'm watching and it's like someone getting wrestle fucked, I'm like, all right, this is boring. Let's stand them up, ref.
My one thing with the casuals, the one thing I want them to understand is, they look at the big names, obviously the McGregors, the Habibs, the Masvidals of the world, and they're like, wow, being a fighter, this is the greatest life ever. Little they know, man. I mean, to get to the point, to get the platform you're at, or your guy in the UFC, I mean, you have to battle through the regional scene where you're losing money. You almost have to have a 9-to-5 job. You have to sacrifice seeing your family, missing birthdays, weddings, Thanksgivings, dinners, pay to train, literally do this day in and day out just for the chance to maybe be lucky enough to be on a big platform like you are. You've been doing this for such a long time. What's made you keep sticking with it and keep going forward?
That's a good question, man. I don't know. It's such a love-hate thing, but I guess the love of it is what keeps us going. Like the moments after fights. I mean, win or lose, I think after fights, some of the specialist moments that you have with your team, your family, my girlfriend, like whoever is there, you realize who the people in your life are that mean something to you. Yeah, I think the process of the whole thing is something special.
So you're taking on Murad Ramazanov, April 18th. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent here?
He's solid. He's obviously a very good wrestler. He trains at Habib's team. I'll say he's one-dimensional, and I'm not even going to say that in like a offensive way. He just has a game plan that he sticks to, and he's pretty good at it. So it's I don't want to say it's easy to game plan for. Like, I need to be like ready and sharp and on point to wrestle this guy, but I am pretty confident that I know what he's going to try and do.
One thing, if anyone watches you, one thing that comes out right away is how well-rounded of a mixed martial artist you are. You've shown it throughout your career. At what point did you really start thinking, hey, if I'm going to try to make it the PFL or the big shows, the Bellators, that I need to be like this?
To be well-rounded?
Yeah.
I think it's like I started in MMA. I didn't have like one discipline first, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I've always kind of structured my training like equally through like grappling, wrestling, striking. So I guess it kind of just came naturally.
Absolutely. So now being in the PFL here, has the goals changed? I mean, with this new change of scenery, are you looking at this to, come up with a new game plan, think of something different? Has anything changed now?
I don't think so, man. Like going from regional scene to contender series, back to regional scene, Dana White's contender series a couple times, into Bellator, into PFL. Like, as much as you try and make it seem like it's a different thing, it's still just a fight. I still just need to beat the guy in front of me, even if it's tournament style now. And I know the other 6 guys that I might be fighting, it doesn't matter because I can't be game planning for Dalton Rasta when I got to be fighting Murad next, right?
No, absolutely. You've mentioned it already. You've been lucky enough to be on tons of different promotions, whether it be the PFL, now Bellator, 10-year series a couple times, fighting on big regional promotions. I say 90 to 95% of the people who attempt this don't even get to do this stuff. Obviously your career is not done yet. You want to go do bigger and better things. But is it kind of amazing when you look back at what the journey has led you to?
It's pretty crazy, man. I still feel like I'm new in the sport. Like, there's still this feeling in me when I come into the gym that I'm like the young guy and people are like, oh, look at this up and comer. And then I kind of sit back and realize like that's not me anymore. It's me telling the other guys that now. Like I'm kind of the veteran. Like at NTT, they call me team captain. Yeah, it's weird, man. I guess it's a good thing to feel like a young guy still, but yeah, I am realizing that I'm not the young guy anymore.
For you, is it pretty cool when you have younger fighters reach out to you on Instagram, Facebook, and be like, hey, man, I'm looking up to you or asking you for advice?
Yeah, man, it's sick. That's one of my favorite things in the sport now is like seeing the younger guys coming up and helping them. And sometimes guys tell me I'm inspirational, and I say like, man, it's a two-way street here. Like, maybe I'm inspiring them because I'm the older guy, I'm the vet, I've kind of been around a little bit, but then I see like youthful energy in them. So it does the same for me.
Absolutely. For you, what does it mean to call yourself a martial artist?
That's a good question. I don't know. I guess like dedicating yourself to a life of this, like to a craft to try and get better at martial arts.
Absolutely. I think, obviously so many people watch this and, I think a lot of people, like, they look at you guys and they just see the competition aspect. Obviously, your goal is to go out there to win fights, to make money, to go fight bigger fights and continue that cycle. But I think a lot of people don't realize the second battle for fighters is, fighting so they don't have to do a 9-to-5 job, fighting so they have that financial freedom, fighting so they don't have to be stuck in a static society where society tells them what to do, fighting so you can live a life on your own terms. Is that another reason why you do this?
For sure. And as much as I would like talk shit about living the 9-to-5 lifestyle, it's something I never want to do again. I am almost in the same thing. Like, I have practice twice a day that I need to show up for. I set an alarm in the morning to go to practice. I come home, I rest a little bit, I go back to practice at night. So I'm not in an office or driving a truck or delivering milk or whatever, but like I'm still kind of I'm tied to my lifestyle.
For you, what do you think are some of the biggest things that you've learned about yourself in life through combat sports?
That's a good one too. Hard hitting questions today. I don't know if I would say I learned this about myself or kind of just about life in general, but this is something that I often tell younger guys when they ask me like what's important in the sport. And I always say that I think being a good person in life has always gotten me further than being a good fighter has.
All right, Aaron, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome on April 18th when you take on Murad Ramazanov in the first round of the PFL tournament?
Win by any means necessary. If we're going to say it's in a perfect world, he's going to shoot a takedown and I'm just going to hit him right in the face with my knee, and that'll be it.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Aaron, man, thank you so much for talking to me again, and I appreciate it, and looking forward to see you fight.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's it for us today. I'm Carl Prusa. He is Mr. Aaron Jeffery. You watch him April 18th, taking on Murad Ramazanov. Take it easy, fight fans.